You guys can grab your food and take a seat. We have lots of late. First, I wanted to welcome everybody to this wonderful facility. Stephanie is the president, but she's in New York today, so she's asking me to step up. And this is my first time, so at least now, and someone said to me, "Are you nervous?" And I said, "I don't think so." You put us in the bathroom. Then the person said, "Why are you ladies doing?" So we want to start with the city selection committee, and again tonight it's really kind of a double track agenda. So for the business items, the needs part was going to be something that would merit some discussion, the bylaws, and also the survey. And then there's the selection of next to this, MCCMC, president, so all that. And we still have a great speaker and 4 panelists. So my proposal is that for the bylaws, it's a first reading, and for the survey, I really love to gloss over it and just know that we'll be discussing any actions and votes, will come next meeting. That way you get to this. I mean, one very loud and clear message was please fight in these meetings about me for everything. I'm going to do my very best to make sure the panelists have time, you guys have time to ask, and we don't spend a lot of time. But with that being said, why don't we start with the roll call?
Belvedere. Here. Porter Madera. Here. Fairfax. Here. Larkspur. Here. Mill Valley.
Here.
Nevada. Here. Ross. Here. San Anselmo. Here. San Rafael.
Here.
Sausalito.
Here.
And Tiburon. Here. Hey.
All right, that's it's a complete forum. Okay, and do we have any public comment in the room? Yes, please.
Hi, D'Angelo Collette, Office of the County Executive, Fiscal Services for Marin City. I'd just like to call the attention to everyone here in the room. There are 2 handouts at the front table. The first one, the county, we have lost our inaugural edition of our Marin City newsletter, but we're trying to improve communication from the county and the community of Marin City. What can highlight the great things that are happening in that community. And the other thing that I want to call your attention to is a flyer. On June 11th at 11 a.m. we have the opening of our Southern Marin County Services Annex building. Everyone in here is invited. I would love it if all of you could show up. And so we're going to be opening our annex building. We're going to be providing services to Southern Marin out of the 630 Drake Avenue location in Marin City. And this is going to hopefully increase access to folks living in Southern Marin to be able to access family services a lot easier than having to come to San Rafael or any of our other remote states.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yes, hi. My name is Patty Blake. I live in Nevada. I'm part of a small but mighty group of grassroots activists who have brought the Whistle Packet program to Marin. Thank you. You likely have heard of Whistlemania, which started in Chicago when if you don't mind, if not looking at everybody. Oh no, I don't need that. I know how to project. Thank you. Oh, okay. So it started in Chicago when the National Guard and ICE search began in June, and communities throughout the country have since started the program in their areas where the Trump administration has set its sight on them. And the premise is simple: see ICE, form a crowd, stay loud. While Marin has not yet experienced an ICE search, I can't imagine you're naive enough to believe that what's been happening in places like Chicago and Los Angeles, Minneapolis will eventually happen here. It truly is just a matter of time before ICE comes to the Bay Area and conducts massive raids targeting our towns and neighbors. Our group, Resist and Defend, has self-funded to produce and distribute nearly 6,000 whistle packets throughout the county. We have the support of the Multicultural Center of Marin, Canal Alliance, Parent Voices Marin, and North Marin Community Services. More than 50 stores, cafes, and local nonprofits have stepped up to provide whistle packets at their locations. And we're now asking towns and cities to step up and distribute packets as well at council meetings, rec centers, senior centers, fire stations, and yes, even police departments. All at no cost to you. We'll provide as many packets as you want at the outset, and we'll commit to replenishing them as needed. The whistle packets are labeled with a QR code linking to a brief whistle training video. The packet itself contains a whistle, of course, the Know Your Rights card, the Marin Rapid Response Network card, and zines with all the information about the program. Everything is in both Spanish and English. Our goal is to be prepared just as we try to prepare for earthquakes. Frankly, the damage ice does to communities is akin to what happens when a big earthquake strikes. And just as we're not sure when the next big one is coming, but as surely as an earthquake is coming, so is us. There's no need to fear being the first jurisdiction in Marin to do this. I'm happy to say that both Mill Valley, shout out to Mill Valley and their family, have recognized the need to care for their residents and are already distributing the packets. I reached out to the city of Novato, and a fellow member has reached out to Corry Kanzenberg, and neither has formally replied to our ask. We'd be extremely happy to have you put a discussion of the whistle packet program on your agenda for your June 24th meeting. We can provide more detail, and you would be free, unhindered by the Brown Act, to ask questions. Don't want to wait until then to bring the program to your MC. You can reach us at info@raddies.org. We have whistle packets that will leave here, and I encourage you to grab one, see for yourself how such a little packet can make a world of difference in these perilous times. Solo el pueblo salva al pueblo. Only the people save the people.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. Okay, anything else from the room?
I'm also the resistance and defend, and I saw the Parnell coalition. And I'm just to have every city and town in Marin represented here is amazing. We are grateful for your service. We know how much work you do and get done. We are standing with our immigrants in Mill Valley. Our police department willingly, happily is displaying our whistle packets. And the reason is because we know immigrants have built our county. Every restaurant, every child care center, every dental office, you know it's immigrants that are here helping us. And it's our responsibility as leaders to lead in the defense. So our federal government is, it's up to us. And I want to just thank Mill Valley and Fairfax. I don't know where you are right here. Fairfax. And thank you. And the Lilies.
Thank you. Okay, Rebecca, anybody online?
I am not seeing any raised hands from online attendees, and I did not receive any emailed public comments.
Okay, so with that, we'll close public comments and we'll move on to 3, the approval of the minutes from April 22nd. Can I have a motion? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous, thank you. Okay, so let's move on to agenda item 4, which is consideration and possible recommendation appointment. One MCCMC representative and one alternate to ADA. So we have Pat Eklund, who is our incumbent, and the alternative rep is vacant. So we got letters of interest. Pat Eklund, also Pat Era from Belvedere, and Joan Cox, I think, who's online there from Sausalito. So you should have all gotten those, everybody, that was letters of interest. And we can start the appointment process, which again, in the interest of time, we'll just do 4 things: introduction, a statement from the candidate, and then comments from any MCCMC members. Then after that, we'll have, I think, probably the most efficient way, because Pat is going, we don't need to go twice, even though Joan is applying for 2. So just 3 people going through this, then the mayor's process, discuss, cast the vote, and then we'll be done. We can move on to the rest of the Is that someone missing something?
No, that covered everything.
Okay. So with that, I think, why don't we go in the order letters? So Pat, if you want to introduce yourself, any statements. Why don't you make 3 minutes?
Let me get my record.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit down and then I'll reach out.
Well, wait.
Everybody hear me first?
Great. My name is Parnell, as you know, and I am your current ADAD representative for my county. And I am taking re-election to that position. And for a lot of different reasons, but one of the most important is that the seventh reassignment starting next year at ADAD. And so as the most senior person on ADAD, I'm hoping to be able to take a leadership role in that position this year, so that we can have more influence over the methodology that's collected. I serve on several committees already, and I probably serve on one of the committees that's most ADAD reps, because, you know, I'm excited to serve and represent where I am. But more importantly, they have a lot of elected officials that don't necessarily want to be involved in some of this too. So I'm on finance, legislative, administrative, I'm on the regional planning committee, and I'm on a couple of committees as well. And so my alternate last year was Nancy Penny's, and the chief decided not to run for re-election. I was really disappointed. And so my alternate position was vacant. And so I didn't miss a meeting. In fact, yeah, they did that. Eric and I had a meeting at 7 o'clock this morning here in Homeward Bound. And for some votes that you had to take. So, but anyway, so you know, the position for alternate was vacant. And Belvedere approached me at one point. And she said, I want to learn a little bit more about ADAD and these things that you do. So we had several discussions. And so I think she got excited about ADAD because of my enthusiasm for the organization. And so I really would love to continue to serve as the main delegate. And my intent, as I've done in the past and for alternate, even though I don't miss a meeting, I bring the alternates with me, and we work as a team. We're stronger as a team. So I really urge you, please consider voting for me for delegate. And if you ever need anything, something about whatever, feel free to let me know. I also did bring a couple of copies of this. If you personally would like to have a copy, please let me know. I brought 3 with me tonight, but I can get more from data. But it's good to have this document just so that you know what plan is for the area. And again, thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to serve you over these last few years. It's just been to be able to try to make an influence on the region. And my written reports. When I first started with being an elected official, I have to tell you that, you know, in these, 3-minute meetings or your reports that people got when you served on the regional boards, that was funny. But anyway, so I decided I was going to do written reports. And I just want to thank everybody else who started to do written reports as well, because that way you can take the information, synthesize it, and then be able to help me difference the work. Thank you.
Thanks, Carla. All right, yeah, thank you.
I am Meredith. I represent Belvedere in the city council. That's something there. And I started my service to my community on the planning commission. I served on the planning commission 10 years and chair for 3. I worked very closely in creating our odds design for our community. We ended up taking it away from the consultants and designed it that would make sense in our community. I also worked recently on the 6-cycle housing element, again, very closely with several council members at the time and our consultants and our staff. And so I've been very heavily involved in RENA numbers and development and community. And being on city council now for 2 years, I realized that some of the things that I've learned and that I helped my community to build plans that suited the community versus the cookie cutter design or concept from consultants that made it work for our community very well. That I'm ready to bring that to county, and help the county also address how arenas handled in the community. And I respectfully ask for your consideration this evening to vote for me as the alternate. And thank you very much.
And then the last one, I think, Joan, you're on mute and you want to come back in 3 minutes?
All right. Yes, thank you so much. And thanks to all of you for considering my application. I'm proud to offer my experience in municipal law, housing, and regional policy in service of Marin County as either representative or alternate to the executive board. I'm sure you saw from my application that I have extensive experience with housing matters. Over the last 5 years, I have lectured statewide on housing and homelessness issues to various California cities. Before becoming a council member in 2016, I served for 8 years as a Sausalito Planning Commissioner. Since 2010, I have assisted Sausalito in preparing 3 housing elements, all of which were submitted on time and certified by HCD. In fact, we were the only Marin County city to timely submit a housing element in this latest cycle. I am not new to ABAG. From 2018 to 2020, I served as Pat Eklund's alternate on the ABAG Executive Board. During that period, in 2019, I was appointed to the ABAG MTC Housing Legislative Working Group, where I helped evaluate pending housing legislation through the lens of ensuring that no single Marin County city is overburdened by inequitable mandates. I will be candid, I am disappointed at some of the criticism directed at me simply for volunteering to serve in a role for which I am well qualified. In the future, I hope all interested candidates will be encouraged to step forward without fear of retribution and without having to seek the permission or blessing of prior volunteers. The very fact these important appointments are revisited every 2 years is to ensure openness, fairness, and the opportunity for both continued and new service based on merit. At this moment in particular, strong and thoughtful representation matters. The recent highly critical state auditor's report makes clear that ABAG and MTC must take a hard look at how they approach regional planning and pivot in ways that better reflect the realities facing our communities. Regardless of who is ultimately selected for these seats, I hope we all remember this is a regional role. It is a seat that serves all the cities and towns of Marin, not just the city any one of us represents as a council member. I stand ready to serve with that broader responsibility in mind, and I thank you for your consideration.
Great, thank you, Joe. Okay, so having heard the statements, if any members here have comments, or any public members have comments, let's move on to that and maybe shorten the piece and what 2 minute max. So anybody in the room wants to do anything?
Could you just, or maybe Rebecca, I know we have a lot of newer council members, just explain how the voting that goes,
Okay,
so that they'll be aware.
yeah, Rebecca, do you want to cover that?
For appointments governed by the city selection committee, the vote is taken by the mayors or his or her designated proxy. So I have received proxy forms from 5 cities that will be participating in the vote tonight, and 6 mayors are here tonight. I will distribute a written ballot, and then after the ballot is completed by the mayor or the designated proxy, I will receive the ballot back and tabulate, and we'll have a snack break while I do that. Hopefully I do that pretty quickly with the help of someone else in the room, and we'll double count, and then I will announce the selection.
Thank you. That's helpful for people.
Hi, I'm Stephen Woodside from Sausalito. I just want to emphasize that having worked with Joe for being on the council and now on the council, she's extremely competent in this area. It's probably the most significant issue we will all be facing in the next few years. And I like to make sure that we're well represented with someone who really knows the ins and outs of the whole RETA process. Is willing to work extremely hard, as someone who really can do. And I just want to mention that I think she would be well suited in either role, because she won't give up and she'll represent all of us. Okay. Next time.
Thank you. Barbara? Yes.
Oh, okay. So I know we tried written ballots. Is there a reading of who voted who? Okay, just wondering. Thank you.
Who voted for whom?
Is it just total versus?
Is that
Specific city voted for this person versus?
I do indicate which cities, that's calculated for minutes as well.
Okay, that's what I thought, because I saw it in the minutes for when I was. So,
And they're public records.
okay, great.
You are right. So I, like Joan, did serve as Pat Eklund's alternate for 2 years, subsequent to Joan. But I can say that Pat did not say about her services that she has been many times the lone or semi-lone dissenting voice on the ABAG Executive Committee on formulation of RETA calculations, and has really advocated for Marin well, despite the fact that a lot of the Bay Area counties and municipalities have contrasting opinions. I do think that Pat has well served our region. Thank you. Oh.
So I just want to say a few words, there's a saying that we have at our town council when we've got a lot of people applying for the same role, we say we have an embarrassment of riches because so many good people want to serve in the same roles. And it's always hard to choose. I'm actually supporting Pat Eklund because she has represented us so well on ABAG and has really not just represented us, but I think carried the voice of all cities and towns here as part of the MCCMC. I've never seen anyone work so hard and complete and compile such long reports, long written reports. So I just appreciate that thoroughness because we all can't be at the ABAG meeting. I'm also speaking in favor of Pat from Belvedere as the alternate. And I've gotten to know Pat very, very well in the last few years. Perone and Belvedere done a lot of work together when I was mayor, and Pat always showed up. I've watched her on the council, I've heard her and her complete mastery of the.
Oh, that was a minute.
Oh, sorry. Both for Pat's work.
Jane Kruger from Belvedere, and I agree with Holly, they're big, wonderful candidates, and it's really hard to choose, they're all fabulous. I'm gonna speak on behalf of Pat Herrick yet, since I've worked with her for the last 5 years. When she was not on the city council and then as a city council member, and she is similar to Nancy Kemenser, if you remember her. She has a lot of great ideas. She follows through with everything. She's very detail oriented. I think she would do a great job as a new person involved in the county politics. I would totally consider her. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I was just gonna piggyback off of what Councilmember Hill was speaking to with in terms of Pat Eklund's service on ABAG. A couple of years ago, I was meeting with Jessica Berkeley, who's now a state senator, but at the time was mayor of Berkeley, and was chair of the ABAG executive committee, and unprompted, knowing I was from Marin, shared what a pleasure it is to work with Pat, and how Pat's now surprised. And said, even though you and him had disagreed on different issues, that he really found their advocacy very effective and really enjoyed working with him. So hearing that, that to me spoke to very many folks, even those who might be in different sides of the issue.
Jesse's wonderful, so glad you made it to the legislature. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay.
Let me just check for online
Yeah.
raised hands. Not seeing any raised hands from online attendees, and I did not receive any emails, comments on this item.
So that brings us to the last part of the process, mayor process discussion on vote about. So I think if you're, like I see, our two large group people, if you want to gather and discuss, you've got your ballots. Essentially, if you just want to fill them out, give them to the
Yeah, you don't, there's no.
they don't, okay, then just fill them out.
You're our proxy, probably,
Yes.
Am I the proxy?
You are. Okay, Is every mayor or the proxy for? Nothing. I have plans if anybody in your that. I'm not very spicy. Everybody have a pen and ink class. And then, please help us all with food and beverages while these party leaves.
Nice, yeah, we are silent, and won't wait to help out. Thank you, guys. Please wait.
Let's try to be. It's so So we got our votes. All we have was announcements. Apparently the wife is the work fleet. So,
That's the.
yeah, yes, pretty much. Okay, so Rebecca, if you can just tally the votes for us and then.
We have double checked and the tally of the votes is as follows. For the primary, we have 11 votes for Pat Eklund. And for alternate, we have 8 votes for Pat Karapian and 3 votes for Joan Fox. So I will be submitting the primary as Pat Eklund and the alternate as Pat Karapian.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Great, thanks everybody, thanks for your patience, it's yeah, a lot to cover tonight. So that moves us to item number 5, which is announcements. Does anybody have any announcements to make? Okay, and if not, we'll adjourn and move on to what's supposed to start at 6:05. Okay. So Rebecca, do we need to do roll call and everything again? I think we did.
We'll just run through it really quickly in case anything's changed. Belvedere. Here. Corry Kanzenberg. Here. Fairfax. Here. Yes, yes. Okay. Larkspur. Here. Here. Mill Valley.
Here.
Nevada. Here. Ross. Here. San Anselmo. She's San Rafael.
Here.
Sausalito.
Here.
And Tiburon. Here. Thank you.
Okay, so do we have any public comment? Seeing none in the room, do we have any public comment online?
I'm not seeing any raised hands from online attendees.
Oh, great. So with that, we move to welcome, so welcome. Everybody. We have Derek, probably Brian, Eric. So thank you guys, I was all of you, it's really wonderful to see tonight. Previously, we all knew that Rebecca, who has been serving so wonderfully for so many years, this will be her last official meeting. And so we wanted to open and leave a little bit of time for some thank yous and for some comments. So I'll first.
Stephanie has her hand raised.
Oh, and I'm sorry, Stephanie, do you want to introduce you first?
Let me
Yeah, Stephanie Hellman, I think, is in.
either promote her to panelist or if she does not want to be a panelist, I can unmute her.
Yes.
Yeah, hi. Sorry I can't be there in person, and it's better for everyone. I don't have my camera on, so I'm on East Coast time. But I'm just really wanted to share my personal experience working with Rebecca has been just absolutely incredible. She's one of the most committed people I've ever had the pleasure of working with. And I know there's many of you who feel the same way. And Rebecca created a proclamation for you. And I believe Councilmember Lisa Blash has that to hand it to you. And I'd be delighted to read how it reads. If that's being provided to you now, I can't see.
Yes, it is. Yes, it's happening.
Wonderful. In recognition of her 9 years of dedicated service as Secretary Treasurer for the Marin County Council of Mayors and Council Members, with exceptional care, professionalism, and unwavering work ethic, her contributions have had a lasting and positive impact on the organization and the communities it serves. We sincerely thank Rebecca for her commitment and service. We will miss you dearly. We know how to find you.
This is unexpected and just beautiful, and I really appreciate your support. I've seen so many council members come and go over nearly a decade doing this, and I did it for the love of this organization and this county and the elected officials that serve it. I've learned so much from all of you and those who came before you, and it's been the honor of a lifetime to get to serve in this role. I'll still be here. I'll come help out, answer questions, email me. I want to see a smooth transition, a successful transition, and whatever I can do to help you in your work, I'm always happy to do that. Thank you.
Never, maybe. So many people crowdsourced what I will read here, and we have a gift for you. And so enclosed is a small gift by comparison to all that you've done for MCCMC from your colleagues to support your relaxation and well-being. We offer this with deep appreciation for your extraordinary service, steady leadership, and care for all of us over the years. Your professionalism, your warmth, your institutional knowledge, and your commitment have strengthened MCCMC, supported generations of us as we came to the organization. You've been a trusted partner, thoughtful guide to so many of us, myself included, a calm presence through countless meetings, often long, transitions, and through many moments of collaboration. We hope this gift encourages you to take a moment for yourself and reminds you of how valued and appreciated you are by so many colleagues and friends in this room and beyond. Thank you for all that you've given to MCCMC and to the communities we all serve. And next, I'll turn it over to Eli, who will open it up for the room, and then Gabe will walk us through the rest.
We're keeping this short because I think there's gonna be a lot of gratitude. So I wrote a haiku for you. Reads thus. Run toward the challenge. Bring courage and bring cunning. Maybe some love. That's great.
Oh, for the public? Is there a Anyway, I'm Brian. I'm here in my role as former MCCMC president. And so I became president coming out of COVID. And as you know, COVID broke institutions and organizations. And so no one's irreplaceable, but it's hard to believe that MCCMC would have survived without Rebecca's hard work and continuity. And I have to say, every idea that I had, not only did you make it better,
You may.
Yes.
So we have been the chair of MCCMC's legislative committee since 2008. We couldn't have kept our BOI together. Were it not for Rebecca as backup for everything and making the meetings go smoothly, technically, and come to great outcomes. Thank you, Rebecca.
Profile reports, and you guys know that she goes through, but I have to tell you, Becca, you're the best. You really are. And I loved working with you. Your determination on doing things right, being on time, but you have a heart too, and you really treat us as people. And I just wanted to say that I've enjoyed every minute of working with you. And my reports are a little bit longer, probably than a lot of people like, but I want to make sure people get the information. But she always made sure that they were in the packets, and she was clear on the deadlines, and I think there's only one or two that I was late on. But just really thank you very much for doing all the work that you did for us. I'm just gonna miss you so much. I feel like about that. You two are all very much so. I think you're going to have another speaker over here. I'm getting.
Just real quick, as a former MCCMC president as well, it's hard for me to believe this is actually happening. Because I feel like at the end of every year it was. And you stayed, but you very much deserve this. Thank you so much for your commitment to MCCMC over the years, being the webmaster in addition to everything else you do. And just thank you. And yes, you deserve it. And yes, you can hand this off to someone else now.
Yeah. Well, you know, my first experiences with Rebecca were with the town of Corry Kanzenberg. And then I got to see what she does with the amazing meetings that you would set up for MCCMC. And I'm so lucky that I get to keep seeing your greatness. Yeah. In Corry Kanzenberg with, you know, what you bring as this is town manager, and you couldn't do what we do there without you as well. So I just want to thank you, and I hope you stay at as assistant town manager for a long time because you are really, really the best.
Just want to say, I went to see Rebecca yesterday or something and talked to her. And I thought, I've been on the council since 2013. She's been there since the beginning of time, and she informed me it was 2016. It's been amazing. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Anybody else?
So Rebecca, one thing about Rebecca that I still can't figure out is that she's such a professional town clerk, and she does an amazing job in that role, and now assistant town manager. But I never understood how she could put up with all of us for all these years. Like putting up with one elected official is enough, but putting up with an entire organization of them says that you can lead anything, you can do anything. And I also just want to thank you for all of your work on behalf of us all. You've been through some tough election fights, and you've handled those very professionally. You've been through COVID, through many different presidents, which is also a challenge and a skill to be able to deal with each one. So thank you for your work. I'm gonna miss you. I know we all will.
Anybody else?
Sally, go ahead.
Yeah, I really appreciate everyone's comments and wanted to tack on to Supervisor Colbert. You know, right now we're in a real period of change and transformation for the organization on top of her full-time job and serving as Secretary Treasurer. She's helped us recruit for her replacement. She's been on all the panel interviews. She's also consulted on some of the bylaws changes that we're working on and helping us envision, the new structure. So there's just, I just have so much respect and admiration and for you, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for all your support of me in this role during this period of change. You're really remarkable.
Thank you, Sally. Anybody else? Okay, anybody in the public?
That is it.
Uh,
I've got a lot to process now that I really needed. This was very uplifting and cool to hear.
Clear, thank you. And I was gonna say when, I kind of got roped into this and I heard Rebecca was leaving, I kind of was daunted by the potential workload and the loss of continuity. But I'm pleased to announce that we also have some great person. And before that, I just want to thank the committees that have been working. And I'm a little new to this system. First, Pat has been there, and she and Stevie Burke have helped me with all of the candidates who applied, the triple time. And Rachel Kurtz has been great, and Chantel, and everybody else who's stepped in. I'm really seeing this is mixing networking. Some of it is food and the chit chat. A lot of it is from meeting friends. So thank you guys so much. And Stephanie, I would say I've worked with a lot of council members. You and I did a lot with rent control, but I have so much respect. Stephanie has an incredible work ethic. She really deserves a round of applause.
Thank you.
Okay, so Christine Perini, can you please stand? She is our new person, which I all hope you get to know. She hails from Fairfax because climate when she relaxed. No, anyway, she's over at Global Climate Collective. We all found her to be experienced, efficient, intelligent. I'm so excited to start working with you. And all of you here, if you get a chance, just say hi to her. And in the coming months, we'll really all get to know each other. And welcome. It's good to have you. So now we're going to move on to the action item. Again, it's, we've already gone, and by the way, all this time is worthwhile. This is where you start taking out the cleaver and chopping off stuff. So the first reading and the discussion of the amendments, I hope, how many of you have had a chance to look at the bylaws, and please be honest. Okay, so it's a lot. It's not a lot, but it sometimes seems like dry reading. But what I thought I would do is, first let you know that this is just your first reading and exposure. We're not taking any action tonight. But as you all know, they're probably reading through the 10 or so different parts of it. Some stand out more than others. So I thought I would say I'll time myself to 3 minutes, just highlighting what I think might be important, open up to discussion, and know that we'll have much more breathing room next time in June, and then we can really see, what to go over and what not to do. So if you can just open that up real quick. So the articles, I'd say that the first kind of, I was going to do this by priority, but it's probably simpler to do it in the order of the article. So yeah, if anyone needs to pack that could be that. So the Article 3 is our membership and dues, and we'd like to have all our regular members pay kind of the dues up front, and if they're ever going to be changed, and I think we published the budget, and we're really trying to keep it with continuity to what we've had in the past. Any change will be by 2/3. So we want to make sure that, this is not only a effective organization, but it's a cost-effective and efficient organization. So we take the dues very seriously. And for Article 3, maybe just look that over and see where we kind of laid the money and if that aligns with the priorities. Article 4 is pretty straightforward. The president, vice president, and Brian and Eric and others here, they served for 1 year, you moved on. So we all see that there's value in that circulation. We want to try to maintain that. Nothing formal, but that is, that's kind of the spirit that we'd like to continue with as many roles as possible. The treasurer and secretary. So of course, with Rebecca outgoing, with Christina incoming, this is a time for us to rethink. What we did a lot in our subcommittee was look at other counties, particularly Sonoma County, how they run, some of the really big ones like San Mateo, some of the more informal ones. And I think, and we'll get to the survey next, most of you said it's pretty good the way it is, tweak it, make a few changes. But anyway, that's something for June, we can have a little more discussion. Article 5 is clearly that was, a more intense part tonight, the committee and authority assignments. So the chairs and co-chairs of standing committees shall serve 1-year terms, are encouraged to rotate. So we've had people long tenure, but what we find is in general, rotations encourage succession, rotations encourage cross-pollination, thinking and all that. So, everybody here has given, the people who served ministers have given a whole lot. The encouraging, piece of this, and again, this is a suggestion, we're gonna have to vote it in, is that we really want to try to get, everybody to experience those leadership roles and to get fresh new ideas. And those who are experienced always stand there with mentorship being an alternate. So that will probably merit some discussion in June as well. Some of the rest of this is definitions. The mayor's select committee, I think, Stephanie Hellman was, pretty clear that the proxy that has been, some of you have also mentioned this. We just want to be not only transparent to the public, but to ourselves. And so what, how do we assign people? What is your role? If you have a proxy, is that person have to vote like the mayor, or can you vote on your own? So we're trying to clarify some of this in this particular article. So if you can just read, again, the red is pretty short. It's about 1.5 pages or so if you were to condense it. So it's maybe a 10-15 minute read. That'll correct it up for next month's meeting. Appointments, spirit of the same of what we've been saying here. Ad hoc committees, you guys can read that through, but essentially the ad hocs, we had the homelessness that went on for a while, the homeless ad hoc. They're intended for time limited, with some express purpose, and so forth. So let's see that we can define these, see that we can agree on the charter and the purpose of all these committees. The selection of representatives, I think some of the same, we want to define the terms, the purpose, the outcomes as much as possible. The meetings, we never really said it, but we had a meeting. It may have been implied that we have 12, we meet once a month, but clearly we don't meet in summer. One administrative thing, this is not bylaws. What I'm hoping, and Stephanie and team, all we're hoping next year is to simplify. We want you guys to have this as sort of effortless, high content, high value gathering. So we'll try as much as possible to meet at the College of Marin. It's central. I think we all like that facility. It's got great parking. So it's like, same back channel, we go there. We'll really try to cut the meetings off at 8:30 so you guys get home. You know that you get the content, get out of here earlier if possible. One preference, we may want to consider is who do we invite as speakers? There was some of that in the survey we'll get to in a minute, but we want to make sure that you're happy and that there's value. I mean, there's some really high priority issues in legislative committee, in RENA, in homelessness, and all these issues. We want to ensure that those are, and then as we heard tonight, there's some interest groups that want to speak to us, but let's decide on what's valuable and get this agenda set and, really have some good meetings. And then, of course, in Article 7, the Brown Act, that was something that came as a kind of a little bit of a wake-up call for us. So, here we have a very clear definition. Yes, we are, if, ands, or buts. We're on Zoom. Is it going to cost us more? Does it have to? I mean, look, we don't need a whole lot of video crew to get this live in public. My personal attitude, I think, is shared by most of you, is we're here to serve the public. I really cringe when I think that there's a meeting where we say, no, you can't come in, and it's not something that's, about labor negotiations or something that's clearly a that type of meeting. So we want to incorporate that, but we want to have some discussion on it too, because there is such a thing as, increasing administrative burden too much. Let's see what we got to say, but again, that's for next month. Attendance, I think Rebecca could probably testify, that's been a rather difficult thing. So aside from the bylaws, we're going to try to use tech a little bit more, make it easy for you, make it easy for us. Let's just get our RSVPs in quickly. Let's not pay out 55 for each meal and scratch money. Let's get this done up front so we can enjoy and understand and work with, the networking and the policy. Quorum, that's just a clear definition of how many people we need. And that brings us to Article 9, which is amendments and changes. So I know that was more than 3 minutes. Kicking down a few minutes. But any questions, any comments? I'll open it up for a couple minutes. Barbara.
I just wanted to say that I did provide some comment on the bylaws to the executive committee and Rebecca in writing.
Yes.
Okay. Only a few things. Just a reminder, it's $25 now, it's not 55.
Okay.
I think you just mentioned 55.
For the meal. And Chantal made a good point. You don't necessarily want to put, things that are very tactical and operational in the bylaws. So we want to have an SOP, we want to clarify budget and policy, but that'll probably occur outside the bylaws.
Yeah.
Okay, Max.
Yeah, just curious for the mayor's select committee, if there has been any discussion about if the mayor is not available, just have it automatically high smaller versus mayor's out of town that the mayor have to find someone, coordinate that, just that.
Yeah, that is in their red line. We did discuss it, but definitely please bring it up next month if you have particular thoughts, a way you think it might be more efficient. I think the spirit of it is we do feel, the mayors have the sort of charge to represent their town. And then the question really is, who would go in their stead, and does that person have to vote, by instruction or by their own free will? So those are some points.
Section 2A, I'm sorry if you mentioned this, is it there for us to consider that the secretary treasurer will be appointed by the president each year, or will be appointed by the president and MCCMC executive? Is it intended to be one or both?
I think it's intended to be a discussion. So those are call out. Good.
Yeah, under section 30, mayor selection.
Yeah.
You have the two lines up on the bottom, the first paragraph, last line. Any council member present may cast a vote for the city in the absent of the mayor if no property is designated. I think you also have to have a sense of what you do if there's more than one council member present, because if they don't agree, you want to have something bylaws similar.
That's great. And by the way, this came from a Google Doc, which is open. So if anyone, perhaps we can resend the link. And if you guys want to add, we don't want to, given this, we don't want to make it too muddy. But I think there's some great comments coming up. And Barbara, yours, Holly's, we'll certainly be able to work some of that in again for some discussion. It might be nice to have our staff reports where whatever it is, there's option A, option B, and all that, so the vote would be easier. Okay, any other questions, points, thoughts? Okay, anything from the public? Stephanie, anything from you?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit hard to hear the comments, but I think I heard Eli Hills mentioning the appointment. Well, to me, it doesn't make sense to reappoint every year if we have somebody hired. And I think it should be the team, the executive team. And then did Councilmember Kohler have a comment about the cost?
No, Stephanie, I just mentioned, Dave had said $55. It wasn't the bylaws, and I was just telling him it's 25 now. But I had submitted my comments in writing to the executive team and Rebecca.
Got it. Yeah, I think we will be providing the budget, but the cost for anyone that's interested is going to fall somewhere in between, probably more like 40, because we're moving towards simplification of most of the meetings will be held at the College of Marin location. and not at restaurants. So I think that per RSVP will come down to the $40.
Yeah, and I understand, Barbara, you're not talking about that. You're saying there's two other comments we'll look at. I think your point is, do they get worked in this? And I think the answer is yes, so.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, anything else? Okay, seeing no other comments, let's move on quickly then to the survey results. Again, thank you guys so much. I think we had 33 respondents for 55 council members, so that's a really nice response rate. Basically, Eli, thank you too. It was essentially his questions. I managed to wiggle them into Google Forms, and then it does all these pretty charts and graphs. Again, I'm happy to send a link, so you can see for yourself all the analysis. We tried to put a high level. I'd say the real call outs for me, if you guys turn to the core value and mission section 1, it's seen that when it says, what do you see MCC's top source of value? Let's just say there were 3 standouts: regional coordination of the elected and push sharing and education relationship. So it's good to know that that's what pretty much 70 to 70 some percent, about 70% of all they're saying. So we're trying to, actually maintain, because it's been a great job keeping this going, but, strengthen that wherever possible. And then the prioritization, legislative coordination, policy influence, regional collaboration. And I think, we have some ideas and plans for all of that. And then going to the operational friction points, number 3, the dinner meeting dilemma. So we want to strike a balance. You guys are here to see each other. There's a lot. I'm wondering to what extent that can be structured a little bit into the meeting too, because we do serve the public. We have a lot of policy issues in common, and selecting speakers and arranging really help with that. It's not like just being able to talk to people, in this unstructured, relaxed form of some food. So we get it, and we want to make sure that's a big part of it. Speaker relevancy. I think Stephanie loved feedback. Tonight, I think is going to be a great speaker, but again, that feedback and tuning and getting it so it really hits the spot. That's important. And then I think the last is, there's the key decisions. A lot of this I think will be technology too. We want to redo the website. We want to have it so on your phone, on your web, or whatever. A lot of this stuff is there and posted. It's easy to say I'll be there, I won't be there, that kind of stuff. Let's see how far we get. But I think Christina's is done a lot of that. That's what I do for a living. So we're going to try to make this more efficient and easy for you guys too. So hopefully that'll make for more time together and more time with speakers. So that's any questions on the survey, any thoughts, any feedback? Eli.
So thank you for the observation about helping the questions. But one of the questions I did have a contrasting opinion on this, but just find out too, which indicates a proportional contribution to municipal population. The only reason why I don't know that that's right, obviously San Rafael's the largest populated cities in Marin County, that I don't know that our votes count for proportionally that way. So I don't know that for municipal population proportionality for a contribution.
And then we'll be able to discuss this next week as well.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. I think this is really highlighting the relationship building. I think the networking and when we're sharing ideas, like for example, today, I learned that for Madera, they celebrate their 90-year-olds and have one huge gathering, which I think is awesome. So I think you find a lot of value with these organic conversations. So I would like to see more of that, and I find more value.
I think you're not alone in that. Any other questions? Okay, so with that, I think we're down to 3 action items that we can do quickly. Oh no, there's one more thing. We got to figure out who's running the streets. Something aside. So 4C is the nomination for the executive committee. Nomination for president and vice president. So I do my hat in the ring for being president next year. Chantel for vice president. I guess I'll take any other nominations.
It's just now call for letters of interest, and the vote will be at the next meeting.
Okay, great.
So if there are any other nominees?
What's that?
Said some.
Okay, good. Then action item 4D, review of the draft agenda. So this is next month. So we'll be at the College of Marin, the Kentfield campus is the center one. And I don't think we have to vote or do anything like that. And then the consideration and approval of the October 2025 minutes.
Yes,
Just,
that was, in the chaos of January, I didn't, they weren't on the agenda for
Okay.
January, and then I forgot about them.
Does anybody remember October? Second? Okay, all those in favor? Passes that. And then the consideration for approval of the April, that last month's 2026 draft meetings. Can I get a motion for that? Okay, second. Great. All those in favor? Okay, so we're done with all the business meeting, and then the committee reports, I believe, are all posted on the web. And we have all the ad hocs, ABAG, Golden Gate, MCCMC, and TAM. So thank you for that, those of you who submitted. And with that, I think we're ready for our program. Is Paul here? Was it?
But I'm gonna call.
Oh, okay.
I'm paranoid about you.
Great, so I
Got it.
take it away.
We should have you stand so you can be on, like over by where Gabe's was.
There you go.
Wherever you're comfortable.
Well, hi, y'all. I'm Corry. I'm the development director here at Homeward Bound, been for about 10 years. I'm really pleased to see you all tonight. I really appreciate you utilizing our space. As most of you know, we have a culinary job training program. We offer supportive employment. So events that are booked here support those initiatives by providing jobs training. So thank you. For those who don't know Homeward Bound, I'm not sure how many people there are here that don't know about Homeward Bound. We are privileged to have been working in the Marin community for 52 years. Really in partnership with you all. We've developed quite a few housing developments, in your cities. Here in Nevada, of course, and Rafael, of course, there and with Mr. Blake. But I thought I would just, jump in and just provide 2 updates. I am actually a proxy because Paul is presenting, our CEO is presenting at the National Coalition for homeless veterans in Washington, D.C. to talk about some of the successes we've seen here in Marin with ending veteran homelessness. So on that note, he wanted me to tell you to not be surprised that at some point soon we anticipate being able to say that Marin has reached what's called functional zero, the ending veteran homelessness. We've really done that in partnership with many of you. And we're excited to be able to announce that. So just to give you some data on that, back in 2016, there was about 150 veterans in Marin who were experiencing homelessness, and today it's 7. So I took a few people on tours of our veteran housing next door. It's just adjacent to this building. It's 24 one-bedroom apartments. Really appreciate the city of Nevada's support for that development, but for also this whole campus. Because we have a unique agreement where we have a 99-year lease for the properties kind of across from this one, and then for the vets building and apartment building adjacent to it and this training center, 55-year lease. So we really appreciate those innovative partnerships. They go a long way because look what we've been able to put here with that kind of partnership. And then the second update is just really about City of San Rafael. I know there's a council member here, I think Eli, right?
Yeah.
Just stepped out, so I don't have to keep kudos, but we're really excited to announce that we're building new senior housing for older adults who are experiencing homelessness. And it really ties into the presentation that I know Meredith and our colleague from Berkeley are going to present after me. But essentially, the Dominican Sisters of San Rafael gifted us a former convent that originally was built in 1903 for a very good price. And we're going to be significantly renovating it and really taking it down to the studs. So we're currently about to launch our capital campaign. We're kind of in the quiet phase, what we call fundraising right now. But really appreciate the support we've had so far within the community. We've had community meetings, neighborhood associations. We've done a lot of tours there. If any of you would like to visit the site, happy to show you around. But that's our next project that we'll be developing in the next few years. We anticipate construction starting
I think it's in 2028, and usually our construction projects are 1 year. So we'll see where we go, but again, just thank you all so much for being here at Homeward Bound today and for the work you all do. It's really essential, and we appreciate being your partner.
I guess we have our panels, but
Not just random people, you actually invite.
so maybe I can just do some quick introductions. So I was very impressed with all of you. So Dr. Perone, here, okay. And you are at UC Berkeley.
Correct.
And licensed attorney, social worker, interdisciplinary scholar, and an assistant professor at the Center of Advanced Study of Aging Services. So
Slight correction, close. I'm a professor and the director of the Center of Advanced Study of Aging Services.
So, and I guess that the really valuable, I mean, one of the great things, you've done a lot of federal work and regional work, and you work as a civil rights attorney and a health policy fellow at the US Senate. So great to have you. Meredith Parnell is a chief program officer at St. Vincent Hall Society, and you've focused a lot on the local safety net, from what I understand, expanding affordable housing and co-chairing the regional older adults. Right.
Slightly.
You should move over to here while I try to make sure I get.
You're blocking now.
There we go. Perfect.
So we're gonna start again. So one of the things I am is I'm the co-chair along with Luke Barnesmore of the the Homeless Policy Steering Committee. I don't know if you all know what Homeless Policy Steering Committee is essentially the governing body for our continuum of care, which is sort of our the federally mandated structure we have for the county and all the service providers working together to end homelessness in this county. So that's sort of one of my official functions, but I'm the chief program officer at St. Vincent Paul, and we both homelessness prevention as well as we provide services for people both newly homeless and people who've been chronically homeless. I'll stop there. So is the microphone on? I don't think so. I don't think so. You know,
You do this to stop by.
that's solid. But we have to hold that. That would work. Sorry. And I am not a large board, but I'm subbing in. I'm actually usually here in my capacity as council member for Mill Valley. But tonight, I am a board member, but I am a board member with Marin Senior Life Foundation. So I'll be presenting on behalf. Sorry.
Yeah.
I get this. So this is pretty casual. There's not a lot of math. So I really want to give you information and also give you a chance to ask questions. So the other thing I want to say is that as St. Vincent Paul, we also are a contracted partner with Adult Protective Services. So we also get requirements from Adult Protective Services for clients who have housing related issues. So somehow all of this has found me in a position where I have kind of become the expert on older adult homelessness in this county. Which is not where I started, but here's where I am, and that's sort of, this is what's happening. We have an aging county, and Angie will speak to that in terms of statistics, and Caroline too. We have an aging county, and we actually have a lot more low-income older adults than we think. You know, the myth of this county, and I can say this because I grew up in Perone when there was an actual horse who was alive and a train, which I know makes me sound like I'm 1,000 years old, but that was actually my childhood. And my mother was on the planning commission and the town council, so I come by this honestly. But not everyone in this county who is over the age of 60 bought their house in 1950 for $1.
right? We have a lot of low income older folks. And so at the Older Adults Committee, we have really been focused on a very specific sort of subgroup of older adults who are falling into homelessness after the age of 60 and or who are precariously housed on the brink of first-time homelessness. And so we've been looking at what are the interventions that are needed for folks in those categories, because our current system of care doesn't really address their unique needs. These folks generally can't increase their incomes. They're on fixed incomes. Those incomes are not going up with the cost of living, certainly not in this county. Many of them have worked low-wage jobs their whole lives, so their Social Security is between $800 and $1,200 a month. You can't rent a room in Marin County for that little money, let alone rent a room and then be able to like afford medicine and food and all those other things. Moving away from Marin to a place where they could afford housing, typically hundreds of miles away, people are like, oh, I'll live in Sonoma. No, you can't live in Sonoma on that money either. Can be a virtual death sentence for older adults by social isolation. Studies have shown that. It's, people are like, well, if you can't afford to live here, you should move away. That doesn't work for people who are 75. They have extreme difficulty navigating our fractured housing system. They're not necessarily people who are really good at navigating online applications. They don't upload documents well. They don't know how to fill out forms for wait lists, and none of that is centralized. So you have to go housing development by housing development. It's a nightmare, even for people who know what they're doing. And the longer term, sort of the regular rental assistance programs that we see, like the one that is going to be starting in this county in just a month or so, really focuses on short-term emergency rental assistance. It doesn't provide case management, and it doesn't do anything for people who simply can't afford to live here anymore. 3 months of rent isn't going to help them. So we've really, same as Nepal, we've been doing homelessness prevention in this county since 1946. Starting, with a handful of volunteers in a couple of parishes. We now have over 190 volunteers throughout the county who are doing homelessness prevention. And then I have a number of professional staff who are doing it. So we really kind of know what we're talking about. And I would say, through our conversations at our open meetings and our research on best practices throughout the Bay Area and the country, we've learned that one of the very best interventions to prevent older adult homelessness are using what we call shallow rent subsidies. The shallow part is that it's not the full rent. So you're not paying like 3 months of full rent and then disappearing. What you're committing to is longer term, smaller amounts of support to give the people working with these folks enough time to get them on wait lists, to talk to their family members, assuming they have any, to see what can be done, to figure out and navigate other systems for them, with the ultimate goal of getting them into some kind of longer term subsidized housing situation. And when you're talking about people who are, in their 80s, 5 years makes a big difference in their lives. And so this is a longer term commitment to supporting them. Unfortunately, those shallow rent subsidies are hard to come by because most of the rental assistance in this county is really focused on sort of emergency crisis. Let's tide you over for 2 months while you get back on your feet or you get over that big medical bill and then you walk away. And that's not what these folks need. So we're currently administering a 2-year pilot project that was paid for by state funding through the county, where we've been able to help like 10 to 12 seniors it's a 2-year program. They're on the average, they earn about $1,500 a month, and we've been able to pay them a subsidy of $1,000 a month, and we've been able to preserve their housing. We've had a couple of people we've been able to move into subsidized housing. We've had a couple, we're using that money for a couple of people to allow them to qualify for assisted living. But the demand is so high, 10 to 12 people for 2 years is not enough. So even though the county, and Derek has left, the county is launching their own homelessness prevention pilot project to really focus on people with previous experience of homelessness, which is not the demographic we're talking about. So they're not going to be assisted by that. Older adults in general are not a population of focus in this county when it comes to homelessness. And our AAA, our Area Agency on Aging, which lives in our county's Health and Human Services, doesn't seem to have the resources to address the unique needs of low-income older adults. So we have been searching for other funding for an intervention that we know works. And so that's where the Marin Senior Life Foundation comes in.
So again, my name is Caroline Joachim, and I recently came on board to be a member of the board of directors for the Marin Senior Life Foundation. And they're actually a new foundation created from the proceeds of the sale of Parnell Friendship House. It was a longstanding affordable senior community here in Marin. Parnell was sold through a tax credit structure. So that preserves long-term affordability for its residents, and it maintains the Section 202 subsidy. What does this mean? It means that the rent help stays with the building. So low-income seniors can stay in place with affordable rents. But we all know that what's defined as affordable rents is questionable here in rent. So what that sale also did create was philanthropic capital. And we're going to now reinvest that on behalf of our older adults here in Marin. So those funds are invested with Greystone, which is Morgan Stanley's philanthropic platform. And so we can be, and we hope to be, a long-term partner for Marin in this work. Our mission is simple, to invest in solutions that ensure older adults can age here in Marin County in stable housing and with meaningful connection. And that is basically the goal from here on out. So you just heard from Meredith why older adults in Marin are falling through the cracks, so to speak. The foundation's role really is to respond to the gaps in our support services and to actually make strategic investments within our older adults, specifically with respect to housing, which, as we know, is much needed in this county. So through conversations with the county and our age-serving providers, we concluded that really the first investment should be focused on older adult homeless prevention. And so earlier this spring, you might have read it in Marin IJ, we granted $3 million to St. Vincent's. It's going to be over a 5-year period. And it's specifically to establish a program called Marin Older Adult Homelessness Prevention Program. So the funding does support the shelter and subsidies, which Meredith spoke about, but it's also with wraparound case services. So we can provide a support to older adults and avoid that risk of them falling into homelessness for the very first time. The problem is, the goal really is straightforward, I should say that. It's to help people stay housed now while avoiding entering into the homelessness system and then avoiding the costly interventions that happen later on the road. So what we've seen really is what Meredith spoke about, is just reactive. And we're trying to be proactive and have those earlier interventions upstream so they do not enter the homelessness system. And particularly this generation, when this is a generation that it's hard for them to ask for help. And so it's hard for us to reach them. And so we want to provide the support services for them and they know that they have some place to go and they will find support. So why this approach? Why prevention? Like I said, we think that, you intervene upstream, you're going to avoid more costly problems downstream, so to speak. But we also want to provide dignity for adults and keep them in stable housing. And then, like I said, I think it's fiscally responsible, actually. It's a very proactive policy, but it is fiscally responsible because, again, a modest subsidy with case management support and services can prevent much more costly services in our county, whether it be in emergency rooms, in our shelters, and encampments. So that's what we're trying to avoid. So Marin is already one of the oldest counties in California. And our goal is to help Marin be a leader not only in aging demographics, but a leader in aging policy and programs as well. So with that, I will turn it over to Angie, who will talk to us about her specific work in this area and then her involvement with the Marin Older Adults Homelessness Prevention Program.
Thank you so much. So I obviously want to echo everything that has been previously said. So I'm Angie Perone from the Center for the Advanced Study on Aging Services at UC Berkeley, and we are focused. We are the only academic research center in the country that focuses on research that focuses on aging services. So we're here in the area. So it's nice to be able to partner here locally, because we do a lot of work nationally too. But we focus on research, education, and policy innovation that focuses or foregrounds and moves forward services that support older adults, care partners, service providers in other areas that are serving older adults. And so we often do external and independent evaluations of programs. We do a whole bunch of local, state, and national studies to really try to understand complex social issues that are impacting older adults and the people who love and care for them. And so we partnered up here on this particular project, one, because as Meredith so aptly noted, Carolyn also, that this is a really urgent and very timely issue, as we are seeing more older adults living in precarious housing nationally, but also locally here too. And this is quite an invisible understudy, but also just underseen. It's not something that folks are really aware of. And so it's really important to study it. I'm a researcher here, so to study it, but also to do something with that, to be able to inform policy and practice. And so that's what we're here for. And then I'll just add that our approach for evaluation and studies like this is to really do something that usually is mixed methods, because you have different research questions that are more qualitative and quantitative design to get sort of both the narrative data, but then also to get metrics that allow you to inform policy through quantitative data too. We also are wanting to do sort of visualization and sort of visual storytelling, essentially, through this data that helps you and others convey what we learned from this study in something that's accessible to the folks that you are all serving, because that's the whole point of this, is to actually have an impact. And so as an independent external evaluator, I'm not here to say, this program is amazing, this program is the best thing ever. My role is to really assess what's working. And then we've talked about how we can, get data the first year to help make refinements, to also make sure that it's doing the most impactful thing possible. And so that's my role here from UC Berkeley. I'm thrilled to be a partner on this.
And let's see, with this funding, it seems like there's a ton of funding, but the reality is it's very expensive to subsidize people in rent, because rents are really high. So we're projecting that at any given time, once we fully ramp up for the next 5 years, we're going to be able to help 30 seniors, right? And people will come in and out of the program, and at least 30 seniors at any given time. And we're hoping in this process with Angie's evaluation that we will, we'll figure out what the best use of that money is, because we want to be able to leverage that to look for additional funding, whether it's from governments or from healthcare providers, to be able to tell that story about how that upstream investment really makes a difference for this population. And we can have good ideas about what's happening. We can sort of track outcomes, but it's not the same as having a formal evaluation. So that's why we've gone about it this way.
And then the other thing I'll add is, I think sometimes for programs like this, folks can sort of be shocked at the cost for the number of folks. But I will say, in lots of other research, both locally, state, and nationally, the cost savings is often much greater than the cost of the program itself when you're taking into account prevention, especially impacts of social isolation or other things that are often attributed to what happens if you don't do this policy or some policy like it. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you all for these, so these things.
Leave us off. Okay, well, in the same breath, I want to say I'm very excited about everything you said on a topic that is very challenging. Angie, when you were describing what we could consume, I'm anticipating something that looks not too unlike an infographic that describes where we are today and what's coming around the corner. It really resonates with me to hear $1,000 a month, which is a lot, but it's a pittance against what it would cost for services and net new infrastructure for where people can go. So I am not, it should be daunting, but I'm not daunted if we're able to get our heads around the number, understand the need from data and math, and then we can really rally around it. So can you describe, I got really excited when you talked about that, but if you describe in more detail what that might look like that we can consume?
Sure. So we have a lot of experience, and I've worked in nonprofits and I understand you want something that's usable. I get it, and that's what we do all the time. So what we've done in the past, and it also depends on kind of what you tell us you want, what's most useful. But usually we've done handout series, lots of infographics. We've done video series. We've done, some people like sort of more traditional reports. And also, of course, presentations and all sorts of things like that. But lots of different formats to meet the needs of lots of different populations and target audiences. Yeah.
If I can put my thumb on scale here, I mean, what would be really helpful is to really understand, because I love thinking in terms of here's the population, here's our aging demographic, and then here are the intersections of people who become more and more at risk. And what comes to mind is personal, but I imagine that there are folks who age as a couple, and there's a safety net there where maybe one person starts to degrade in their capabilities. And speaking from personal experience, I have one parent whose faculties are starting to diminish, and then there's another persona who's by themselves, and they're going to need extra support as maybe as their faculty start to diminish. Anyway, I'm trying to imagine that there are some predictable elements that we want to make certain we're providing support for people who may not have those in-place support networks.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of this, we're going to get a lot of data from this study to help do that. But I will say we are seeing a trend, and there's lots of different sort of sub-trends in different communities, but generally we're seeing a trend of a lot of women actually entering homelessness for the first time after age 50, because exactly, they don't necessarily have the sort of economic safety net. It happens usually after the death of a spouse, and particularly an opposite sex couple, but it also is happening in same-sex couples too. And then we're also seeing folks who experience this after a health crisis, because health costs are so expensive. And so it doesn't take much to actually get you in that place where you aren't able to pay your expenses. So yes, there's going to be specific communities I think that we'll see, but I think the data, we'll have to see what other insights we have.
Yeah, so actually Angie and I were at the Leading Age California conference last week, separately, but we're there at the same time. And I do want to say that I think it's really important to start collecting the data and having this data-driven evidence, in particular for policy makers. Because what we're hearing and what you'll see on the headlines is, and we're not trying to call it the silver tsunami anymore, but the wave. And so what you're hearing at these conferences is this wave, they're actually the boomers, very wealthy. They're very well off. So they're looking for, personalized healthcare, they can afford it. They're looking to live in these, senior living facilities, or communities, I should say, that offer a number of different services. So I am very cautious when I hear that, because I think that it's going to, again, make this particular population that's so vulnerable invisible. So the fact that we can get some data-driven evidence, I think is going to help tell that story. And so that's why I'm very excited with Angie, because she can do the visual narrative, and that's what we really need to get those stories out there.
The other thing I would bring up, it's not just about the economics of housing. It's also, we're seeing people, Paul isn't here, but we have many conversations about, Homeward Bound runs mostly shelter in this county, not all of it, but most of it. And their shelter system is not designed for older adults. It's not designed for people who need help with their ADLs. It's not designed for people who have memory care issues. We actually don't have anything like that in this county. And so that's why the prevention is so important. And it also speaks to why IHSS caregiving is so important, and the threats from the federal government and from the state about decreasing IHSS benefits are also really problematic, because that's part of what enables people to live independently in their houses longer. So, you know, we're really focused on the small thing, but we're also talking about all these other factors that really impact the ability of older adults to remain in the community where they have lived, you know, for 40 or 50 years, and they, you know, contributed their hard work and they volunteered on their PTO, whatever it was. And it's, you know, so it not only is it cost effective, but it's also immoral for us to be trying to export poor older people out of this county to places where they can afford to live, and sentencing them to death by social isolation because of that. Because that's something that comes up for me every single day in my work. You might joke, and Pat and I have had this discussion, because right now, the way our system is set up, that essentially anybody who comes across an older adult who's struggling, the answer is, what do? You call Meredith.
Yes.
Like, I'm that person now. Like, and so I'm the person who gets the emails, I get the calls, and, you know, this is really incredible, and we're gonna get great data, but we're gonna need to scale this up.
I think we got Terry and then.
Meredith, so of the people that you work with who are older adults who are facing homelessness, what percentage of those would you say have some form of dementia?
You know, I'm no doctor, don't even say we're on TV, so and also when people are anxious, you know, they present a bunch of different, you know, anxiety shows people can seem like they're not smart or whatever it is, or they're demented or they're slipping, but a lot of times it's just anxiety about their own experience. So far, it's been a very small number. We're about to start cranking up our APS referrals again, and we'll see. What I also see is some of it is actual mental illness. It's not necessarily an organic issue, but also those things present very similarly. So it's not an easy thing to navigate, I would say, Terry.
Yeah, I was thinking, what do you do when you really find with this person who feels like maybe can finance an apartment, but doesn't have the cognitive abilities to do it anymore? And where do they go? What do you do?
Well, that's where actually adult protective services can be really helpful, those social workers, in terms of trying to everything from locating family members, assuming they exist, to looking for assisted living units, you know, but it's not that easy. You know, we had an APS client who we begged the director of Johnson's Place, our shelter, to accept him, and he was on the assisted living waiver list for 7 months, waiting for a spot to open somewhere in California, and he ended up in a place in Cloverdale. And we're paying a shower rent subsidy to keep him there because his SSDI doesn't cover it.
Okay. So I just work. It's my playground voice. I hear from constituents, as we're policymakers in this room, that they want to age in place.
Yeah.
But they need help aging in place. They need help building ramps and putting up grab bars and having somebody lower a kitchen countertop or whatever they need. So that they can stay in their home as long as possible. Are you looking at services that a government or a community can provide to residents who need, let's say, a catalog of to shelter, live in place safely menu?
Sometimes, I mean, I have Marin Center for Independent Living on speed dial, so, I'm always talking to them about what's available. It's so many of these, everybody has like a little bucket that's teeny, and then there's all different eligibility criteria, and so we're often just sort of patching
Yeah.
things together to make that
Comprehensive.
happen.
If a way that we could coordinate it would be so much.
Yes, not just through me, and that's
Yeah.
something that, because right now, I, this is not ego talking, this is because. Say, Vincent Paul has been in the county for a long time, a lot of people call us for help
Right.
every single week. And so we end up being this sort of repository, and I'm connected to Aging and Adult Services, you know, through the Aging and Disability Resource Connection, which is also a partnership with MCL, and then through APS, and so I'm just trying to figure all of that out. And of course, and we're looking at what would it take to create a coalition, a gathering, a something that would actually coordinate better than what we have right now, and that's a conversation that Caroline and I are involved in with some other folks about. And I have been asked to join the board of Vivalon, so that's, I'm gonna have a better understanding of how they fit in that picture, and I can bring my expertise to them, and Vivalon is, I think, much more willing to address the needs of lower income folks than they have been in the past. Yeah.
The other thing I kind of wanted to put forward as policymakers that we are, I get constituents who are house rich because they bought their house in 1968, but they're cash poor. So they have their mortgage paid off and they have a lower property tax because they're pre-Proposition 13. But every time we all vote in a new parcel tax, a new school bond, a new hospital tax, a new paramedic tax, a new county regional tax, they get added on there, and only a few have 65 and older exemptions. So I had somebody show me their property tax bill and they had 12 additional charges that we all vote in, because we know they're probably important. But I think we should step back sometimes and say, what are we doing to our senior population by continuing to add more and more and more charges to their property tax bill?
I agree with that. I'm a tax person. I actually think people need to be paying more taxes, and those people are also benefiting from, you know,
Just the debate.
incredibly low property taxes. And we're overhoused as a county. So one of the things that we run into, too bad Luke's not here to talk about front porch, because that's what front porch is about, matching those home seekers with those home providers, so they can earn some more income to address those needs.
That's great.
But so those services are available. But we have in this county people who have, you know, very, very precise and very, you know, ideas about who should be living in their house or not, which I understand. And I cannot tell you how many people often, because of the death of a spouse, have spare rooms that are filled with things that they don't have the wherewithal to even address.
You're talking about my parents, so
Okay,
yeah.
you're talking about me. I have a story. I just moved. I just read it, and still has stuff from my mother who died 11 years ago. So I was like, I'd rather stick it in storage. So I understand that. And those services, no one is paying for anybody to do those things. So
Yeah. So I don't know. She's got the mic. It doesn't work.
It's on Lisa, it's on.
So I just want to say thank you so much. I have been one of those people that's called her and written her multiple times. And the heartbreaking stories that we hear in our community of people who really, I mean, they're renters. Something happens where they just can't pay up anymore. A lot of times they wait until it's like way too late to reach out. And there was one person, I can't tell a lot about her, but you know, I swear there were like 11 different service providers who tried so hard to get this one.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Woman, an apartment that she could kind of live in. I mean, it was like incredible that in this county with all the wealth, it was so hard to get this, you know, she's interesting, but to get her a place, it was incredible. And it just, you know, and it goes on and on. I get a new story every week, and, you know, people are like, hey, can't you put them in your house? You know, it's like, there's just nowhere for them to go. And, you know, have older women, you know, I used to run some affordable housing website or something, write me and say, I'm really well behaved, I'm about to become homeless, and all the homeless housing goes to people who are misbehaving. And I'm gonna be living in my car. And so I guess one of the things that I wanted to ask is, how do we know the extent of the need? I mean, we have some ideas about who's cost burden, right? How are you gonna be selecting people into this pilot? Because I'm sure there's just people gonna be knocking down the doors trying to get into it. And then how can cities and towns help with what you're doing?
Well, we're gonna have data and we're gonna be circling back around, and I would say. I mean, we're gonna fill it quickly, but right now, I mean, people are like, oh, you need to promote yourself. I'm like, no, I do not need to promote. I was like, no, I will find them, they will find me. So, we're not doing sort of like an assessment that is, we're not gonna be trying to take a whole pool of people and rank them by vulnerability. We're gonna have eligibility criteria, we're gonna come across people and we're gonna serve them. And I'm not a big, and then we're gonna know how many people we can't serve. So we'll know how much more money we need to go out and find. I mean, that's just the nature of it. Yeah.
Who's next?
Sorry, just quickly, first of all, it's very exciting what you're doing. I'm curious if you have any relationship with a group right down the road, the Buck Institute for Research on Aging. It seems like there could be a lot of relationships there, and there's a lot of funding there. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's a lot of funding. I'm not sure that, I mean, we have talked about how to approach them. There's not an obvious way in, unless you have ideas, in which case, let me know.
Let's talk offline.
Okay.
It's diplomatic.
Thank you for the work that you're doing in this community. My question is, are you currently partnering with Marin Housing Authority to help them address people that may be on the brink of homelessness and try and save them from housing?
That's a lovely question. The housing authority is in no position to help people. I mean, the housing authority doesn't do any prevention, and just so everyone knows in this room, the Marin Housing Authority right now is currently in a state that's called shortfall, which is what happens when the federal government tells them they have to stop issuing vouchers, because normal shortfall means like you've gotten out too far ahead of yourself, because a voucher is, a lifetime promise to pay, right? I'm sure built on actuarial tables, but we've been in shortfall for at least 2 years, so no new vouchers are being issued at all. And not only that, a number of the vouchers that we have that were a special kind of voucher that were issued during the pandemic, emergency housing vouchers that were issued by the federal government in an attempt to get as many people off the street as in a response to the pandemic as possible. Those vouchers were supposed to be funded through the end of 2030 with the idea that those people would over time naturally migrate into regular Section 8 vouchers. Those vouchers they will stop funding them at the end of this year. So we have at least 90 households who are going to lose vouchers. The federal government is also coming after folks who have mixed status family. The children are US citizens, but the parents are undocumented. And the federal government has now decided that people who are undocumented can't get any benefit whatsoever. So we have 25 to 30 counties in this family who are housed with mixed status families with vouchers whose vouchers are going to be taken from them. So I mean, if I didn't have gray hair, I would have gray hair, and the rate I'm going to have your hair completely bald. I'm going to pull it all out, because we are under just a tremendous assault, and we're trying to do something about it, right? But yeah, there's a lot of fires to put now. So I talk to the housing authority all the time, because in my capacity as chief program officer, I have 12 case managers who work with chronically homeless people, either to keep them housed or get them housed, like, folks in encampments, folks who've been chronically homeless on the streets of Marin for a long time. And a lot of those people were able to get vouchers, and so I'm always stuck with the housing authority. They got me on speed dial too. Can I say something uplifting? Because I know I'm just bringing you all down.
Say something well.
Yeah.
Very less.
Maybe it'll be an uplifting question. So this again is Meredith. So with a lot and working with the Aging Adult Services in the county, I've worked for the last year Since we're talking about resources, how do you know what's out there? Yes. It worked the last year to develop almost the first of its kind resource guide. It's like 100 pages long. So it's a big one.
I worked on it with them, I know.
It just came out.
Yes.
So it's really a good one. And I will talk to Janae and Aging Adult Services, and I will ask if she will please get them out to all of the cities and towns. I don't know if they should go to the manager or if there should be enough copies for members of the council. But we will make them available to cities and counties throughout Marin.
I've told a lot of people that it's coming, so I need to be like, yeah, sending it out to people because it is gonna be a good resource.
It's a good one.
And a resource guide is lovely, but that doesn't make resources happen. It just tells people what's available, right? So we need more resources than we have.
It's a start. It's a start, little piece. Start. I agree. They call you all able to solve it.
Okay, so we got Barbara, anybody else besides Barbara feel like that? And then, yeah, let's start
I
wrapping up.
just want to add one quick thing. First of all, I want to thank Meredith. Lisa Blash before she was on our council. We're in organizing committee for Victory Village.
Yeah.
All Section 8. Right next to where I live. I'm so happy they're there. And initially 12 chronically homeless people didn't really work out very well. There was not the wraparound services from the county.
Yeah.
But I just want to say we have 54 units because of people came to our council and supported it. And I will tell you, there were people against. Somebody who's currently on our council. And just what's wrong with this picture? Poor people who have nowhere to go in this wonderful community that's right next to where I live. So thank you.
I'm Virginia's son and other venues. My mom is 99, plus. She is lucky, because mom and dad stayed money. And so she's living in the house I was raising in town with her. And we have a kid, which is great. But she doesn't have a home. Dad's 80 years old. She has absolutely nothing. She never lived in anyone. She was a running child, family. And so she lives at the house with her mom and dad. They fully pays for it. She has absolutely nothing. And so there is a small population like that, and I don't think how small. I think there's not more than one person because in the church that we have, there were several people like this. And mom were really, really close, and so we really care. But at some point, she's gonna need help because she may not, age, depends on how she ages. So I just don't want you to have this kind of condition. And I think it's the hardest population to try to find. But I think if there's a way, maybe it's not just leaving it, picking on another, so housing one person households. That was and then, and yeah, to me, that's an indication that that person isn't seen or could be. So anyways, I'm just, especially with the senior attention, but, so, and I agree with the parcel tax, you know, like for Ellen, I mean, I don't know how she pays her property taxes. She may not. I know, I've asked her, she said she's paying, but. So we give her as much as we can, for money as well as food and everything, so. But I'm just worried about the other people that may not have like that. And so, so I just wanted to call that to your attention. And I thought I had the time and go look, I just, you know, like, but I want that are like yourselves and are working in this field. It's an incredibly important field. Because the people who are aging sometimes don't know what to do or where to go. And so, anyway, so just comments from the Creek Valley. Just thank you very much for everything that you're doing. Just matters.
And then Eli, and then maybe we'll wrap it up. Because I forgot to ask the question, when will we get a first opportunity to consume Sedula?
Yes. We just got the check, okay, so just hold on. Yeah, exactly.
Like a year, I'm just trying to
We have something.
Yeah. Yes, the evaluation is gonna be stepwise or tiered, and so there's gonna be, is anyone still on that thing?
No, here. I don't know.
Yeah, it's okay, just.
I'm going to post the video on the website.
Oh, okay.
And other council members may reach out and want to ask questions or revisit this.
Yes, I would not expect anything before a year. We might be able to do something sort of. Yeah, something that's less rigorous and sort of. Yeah, but we'll probably have raw data that we can share sooner, but nothing that's like flashy and sort of super final before I would say a year.
Totally, and I'm accustomed to at least this pattern. I've been in government long enough to know that once we can identify a data-driven need, it's a lot easier to say, okay, now we understand what we need, all the grants and support we need. And if I can just opine that hopefully we get new federal administration.
Can I just say my suggestion would be, when you do have something to share, this organization meets for the most part monthly. You could send some information with Carolyn or have during open time, or have another council member share it, and then it'll get posted. Is that Carolyn?
All right, well, Angie, Caroline, and Meredith, thank you. And we'll see you next month at the college market.
Thanks for inviting.
Thank you.